follow.
Then another year it starts again. Well, this is different.
We shall definitely be talking to those wonderful people. Once again, we urge you to share the feed on Facebook.
Hi there, I'm KAYIN, and today we're going to be talking about the African diaspora in Mexico.
Whether UK likes it or not, I have to leave this country.
I became a member and a chief of the Vice Lord all in one day.
All these guys, winds are out of the north at Midway Airport.
His father.
Rice and beans. Okay, kids, we have had to come to an end of this beautiful set.
It's not about this.
This is the inside account of a week that brought the Rainbow Nation to its knees.
Right, essentially trying to inculcate into this.
Aglo Bolingbrook Lighthouse is a network of caring women. We are a dynamic global movement with a single mission to see God's purpose fulfilled on earth as it is in heaven. Our mandate is every nation touched and every heart changed for God. We invite you to our prayer meeting every Saturday and breakfast meeting held every last Saturday of the month from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. via Zoom meeting. For more information, please contact Dickness Rebecca Modi at 630-297-1471 or Reverend George Ofe Ado, our advisor, at 630-414-9505. We look forward to having a refreshing time with you in the Lord. Thank you and stay blessed.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Alinko, and thank you for joining this great platform. We are the #1 community building show in the world. We're excited that we are coming away. Today is August 17th, 2022, and our location has changed today, right? If you're watching us, wherever you're watching us from, you notice that we have a new location. We are in New York City. The Progressive Mind Show is not going to only stay in Chicago. We're going to be moving around the cities. Today, we are in the beautiful city of New York, specifically Queens, right? Queens, and it is beautiful. You can see Queens behind me. You see the bridge? That is, but it's a great day. We are going to be talking about, we are starting our new series called Their Stories. And so today we're going to have Attorney Barclay and his family on the show. But before that, we would go to the Captain Mike segment, come back afterwards, and we shall be diving into the conversation. Captain Mike is ready with us, bro. I'll say great weather last week in Chicago. Now that I'm in New York, I see great weather. I see greatness all over the place. The weather is beautiful as well. I know you have some updates for us. Please go ahead.
Oh, yeah. This is that time of the year. We're going to have boring weather, but nice boring weather. The average high is about 80 degrees. The average low is about 67 degrees, and that's pretty much what we're going to get. Right now, Midway Airport, we're looking at 82 degrees. Winds are out of the east, about 10 miles an hour, gusting to 15. And right now, mostly sunny skies. Really nice. Don't know how it is in New York. I didn't really look at the forecast for there, but hopefully everything is going well, and hopefully they have some Chicago-style pizza for you. Look at the rest of the night for our forecast here before I get in trouble. The rest of tonight, we're going to get down to about 62, which is a little bit lower than normal. So bring your sweaters. The rest of the week is really, really nice. The only chance of showers and thunderstorms we're going to have Saturday and maybe early on Sunday. And you can see the rest of the week, we're going to be near 80 degrees, near a low of 65 degrees, 66 degrees the rest of the week. So pretty consistent forecast. In sports right now, we have the Chicago White Sox are going to be taking on the Houston Astros right down the street from me in just about an hour. And the Cubs defeated the Nats 3-2. In our health and fitness report, there's some good news for you guys who are big fans of spicy foods. According to blackdoctor.org, hot spicy foods may help your health, make you healthier. Hot spicy foods, they can burn the tongue and burn other places. But according to our report, peppers contain a compound called capsaicin, which is an ingredient in pepper that makes, it's a chemical compound that binds to your receptors, your pain receptors, and makes you think that the temperature has changed, tricks the brain. Temperature in your mouth really hasn't changed, but it feels like it. So your body goes into overdrive mode to try to cool you down. And it lasts about 20 minutes. It doesn't actually burn. So there are no health concerns there. The benefits of hot, spicy foods can be a decreased chance of heart disease and better stomach and gut health. Research has shown that those who eat spicy foods 6 times a week have a greatly reduced chance of premature death than those who only eat spicy foods 1 time a week. And remember, these are preliminary research word I'm looking for, results. So this may or may not be exact. So, but from what we're seeing, spicy foods, those of you who are big fans of, it's going to help you out. So keep eating it. So, and with that, Cena, we're going to go back to you.
Hey, Captain Mike, thank you once again for a great update. Really, really appreciate it. Look, have you lived in New York before?
I've been there several times and I have family there. So I've never lived. No, I like to visit, but I couldn't live there.
Okay. So if you had to trade Chicago for New York, or what would why are you shaking your head already?
Not gonna happen.
Why not? They have nice pizza, of course. I had one.
Completely different animal.
But hey, I think I love the vibe. I think the energy is great out here. Totally liking the energy, and so really appreciate the updates. Again, it's beautiful. If you're at home, I know you probably might be going for a walk along the lake, something like that, maybe. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, brother. We would have to continue the show. I know that you have other things to catch on this evening. Regards to the family, thank you so much for the updates. We shall be right back after this, Captain Mike. Thank you once again. Hopefully, we can see you next week for another update on weather, sports, and health. Thank you so much.
All right, and definitely go to Dougie Fresh's Chicken.
Oh, where is that?
I think that's out in should be in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah. Okay. It's Dougie Fresh Chicken, you said?
Yeah. Dougie Fresh, the rapper.
Oh, okay. Definitely. My host here will know where it's at. We will find it. And if you have any other recommendations, feel free to reach out. Let me know, and I'll check them out.
All right, and let me know how it turns out.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you once again, bro. Peace. So that was Captain Mike. We will go straight into the discussion this evening. If you're watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, please share the feed. This is your host, Alinko, and we have changed our location today. We're not in Chicago, broadcasting from right here. Okay, you see the Twin Tower right behind me, the old Twin Tower, and then Brooklyn Bridge right behind me. I love it. Beautiful. And we were looking to do this broadcast outdoors, but we had to make a few changes. So hopefully in the days to come, we can get that done for you. In the meantime, we will take a short break and then come back to the conversation this evening. We're going to be talking to the Barclay family, okay, which is who's going to start their stories series. as I mentioned earlier, we started a story. If you've seen on social media, we started the series that is titled Their Stories. Now, if you're familiar with the Progressive Mind Show, we have different segments like this. There's one that we call Police and Civilian Relations. This is a platform where we engage the law enforcement and community folks to dialogue on what we can do and ways that we can make our communities safer and whatnot. And then we have the Diaspora Convo. The Diaspora Convo is basically us sharing, basically the people of the African diaspora coming together, sharing our culture, telling our own story, and finding ways to which we can make our society and our communities better. More importantly, working out our relationship. And now we started the Their Stories series. The goal for their stories is to bring individuals and groups who have made it through thick and thin in the minority communities, folks who have attained the American dream through thick and thin, folks who have braced through tribulations and trials and have made it, truly made it. We want to have them on our show. They're going to share their stories because we want to motivate and inspire and encourage hard work, right? We want to give relevance and enforce the value of perseverance and hard work in our societies. And we also want to encourage these people and congratulate them for taking the pains, staying focused, the discipline, paying the price to attain economic heights. Because a lot of times when we see people who have made it, we don't know the backstory. And a lot of times we just look at what we are looking at, the success, we are looking at the end product, and we are not able to appreciate as much as we should. We have all kinds of notions when we see successful people. Some hate, some love, some admire. But what we don't know truly is the story. And the stories are not always as glamorous as the end product, which is their success. And so we want to be able to share these from them. And as we do this, we hope that we can, again, motivate people who are already going through stuff and people who are looking to go somewhere. Ultimately, we also want to use their stories to connect the African and the African American intellectually, because part of our gap has not only be socio-cultural or economic, but socio-cultural and political. But I feel like as a community, as a bigger diaspora community, we have lost touch, or we have not been connected. We have not been connected intellectually at all. If you ask me, a lot of Africans on the continent, and even here, do not, and let me put it this way, a lot of Africans on the continent of Africa do not connect or do not see the intellectualism in the African American community. It's not like we intentionally don't want to see it, we just don't know it. Because back in Africa, we don't see African Americans thriving on TV, right? We don't see the judges, we don't see the lawyers, we don't necessarily see them like that. Most of the time, what we see of African Americans will be musical clips, maybe music videos, sports, and whatnot. And so, how do we connect? Us at that level. And we hope that as we share and as we go through these series of their stories, sharing success stories of folks in the minority community and the immigrant community, we can begin to understand, know, and appreciate the success stories of immigrants who have come here and have thrived and have made it, and also African Americans who have made it in America through thick and thin. African Americans who have been extremely successful who have contributed immensely in building this country that a lot of Africans may not be aware of. And so this is how we intellectually bridge the gap as we thrive to work out our relationship. That said, our guest, we have one of our guests waiting on us in the studios. We're trying to get him in. Before we do that, we will take a short commercial break. When the show returns, we are going to be talking to attorney Lester Barclay and his son. Possibly we might have two of his daughters with whom he traveled to Africa and Jamaica, tracing their lineage and also sharing their success story. Stay with the Progressive Mind Show. This is your host, Alinko. We shall be right back. Welcome back to the show. This is Alinko with the Progressive Minds. As if you just joined us, our location changed suddenly, okay? You should be expecting that from us. We have our guest in the studio this evening. KAYIN Barclay is here. Kia, wow, great. Now, KAYIN, can you see us? Let me see if I can. Okay, Kia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Awesome. We are waiting for the other participants in for this important conversation. Let me see if we can get. We had KAYIN on, but we kind of lost him. But we'll see if we can get him on again. Now that we have you, how has been your day today, Kia?
It's been good. My name's pronounced Kaya. We all have like weird spellings, my siblings and I, to our names. But I'm Kaya. My brother is KAYIN, and my dad should be logging on shortly. But my day's been good. I'm still in my work area, but it's been a good day so far.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And KAYIN, can you hear us? Okay.
I can't hear you. I'm just working through some technical difficulties.
Okay. We could see you earlier though. So just FYI, okay?
Okay.
Now we will try and start the conversation with I didn't want to say Kia.
It's Kaya.
Kaya. Okay.
Yes.
I'm not going to miss it the next time. Sometimes I have to hear it and repeat it twice. So Kaya, right?
Yes.
Nice. Awesome. Kaya, welcome to the show. We are pleased to have you this evening. I heard about your story with from your dad, and was hoping to get you guys on the show this evening. First of all, you said you were at work. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you work, educational background, and then while we try and get, I think we have some technical issues with KAYIN and your father, but we'll try and get them in. So if you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about who Kaya is.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's definitely a pleasure. And it's a topic that I do think is really important to explore in terms of African Americans tracing their roots back to Africa and the Caribbean. So a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Chicago in the urban city. Grew up, went to public school there, went off to college in the Boston area where I studied neuroscience. And I'm now at Washington University in St. Louis, where I'm in a program to get my PhD in neuroscience. So I'm really interested in how the brain works and interested in doing the research side of it with the goal of getting my doctorate. So I'm in a doctoral program right now.
Wow, that's very powerful. How many siblings do you have?
I have two other siblings. So KAYIN, who will be here on the call, and then KAYIN and I have a younger sister, Kara, who is 2 years under me.
Awesome. And then you are what number do you play?
I'm the middle. I'm number 2. Stuck in the middle.
Awesome. And you're from Chicago?
Yes. All of us were born and raised in Chicago.
Beautiful story. And when you shared, you said you were working on your PhD. You already have, did you say a master's degree in neuroscience?
So in the neuroscience field, you can skip the master's. So I went from my bachelor's to the PhD. So I have a bachelor's. I don't have a master's, but I am in a PhD program.
You're in the PhD program for neuroscience?
Yes.
I'm trying to see the motivation to go into neuroscience because, and I hope we can be candid. On this platform, we try to be as candid and open because what we hope to do is to inspire, right? And to effect positive attitudes. And by doing so, we share the stories, right? The back end stories. And a lot of times the stigma when it comes to urban community, folks in the urban community or minority communities, Black communities, African American communities, is that they don't want to go to school, right? They don't want to take advantage of the powerful and great educational system here. All they want to do is ABC. You know the stigma. You heard it.
Yeah.
Have you experienced this yourself? Have you heard it from people?
Oh, absolutely. When I was in college, someone said, like, what does it feel like to be, the token Black person in the neuroscience program, as if, Black people didn't aspire to do anything, pursue higher education or pursue the sciences at a higher level. And it kind of hit me, I guess, that like, okay, yeah, I guess I'm now entering spaces where my presence is shocking to a lot of people. And so what does it mean to kind of stand out in those spaces? What does it mean to own yourself and your story in those spaces? Because a lot of people have their doubts, they have their prejudices and their biases about what you are able to do because the representation just isn't there. I guess for me, I grew up in a household where my parents, education was not in question for us. We knew that we had to go to school. We knew that education and knowledge was going to be our ticket to stay out of poverty. My parents, my mom is a physician, my dad's an attorney. And so they had gone through college and through graduate schools and professional schooling. And so I really saw it as a privilege to be in a household where education was not taken lightly. And education for me, honestly, was celebrated. I remember growing up, in church, the pastor would give out and request that the congregants give $1, $5 for every A you had. So I knew at the end of every semester, if I could make, $20 for an A, for all the A's I got that semester, I was living the best life I could as a 6-year-old, So for me, I was just around a lot of people who celebrated education, where grandparents who poured into our educational funds to help assist us in with college and any kind of extracurricular or educational opportunities that we wanted to pursue, whether that was during the school year or during the summer. So for me, education has always been my ticket. And while I do enter spaces where people don't necessarily know that to be true for all African Americans or Black households, I take a lot of pride in coming from a household and a family that promotes education.
No, that's a very powerful story you shared. Which part of Chicago do you grow in? Is this south, west, north?
Yeah, we grew up on the South Side.
Okay. And would agree with me that in some part of the south side, you don't see a lot of affluence and positive conditions that can influence some of the decisions and push you in the direction that you're on now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you see a lot of people, where I live that just hung out on the streets all day. But, you can do two things with that piece of information or those observations. You can either decide you want to join them, or you can decide you want to do something a little bit different than what they've done. And if the difference is education and a commitment to pursuing knowledge and education, then it may dawn on someone that perhaps I should take school a little bit more seriously so that I don't end up, living a life that I'm not too pleased with, in 10 years because I didn't take it seriously now.
Awesome. Thank you. I think you and I can have this conversation all by ourselves. We don't need KAYIN and Mr. Barclay because I think you're dropping a lot of knowledge, and I appreciate it. But lastly, before I go to Mr. Barclay and then KAYIN, I mean, the last question I want to get to you is when if there are young ladies listening to you now, and we also understand that the American dream is not only achieved or attainable through education, right? A lot of immigrants, a lot of folks have come to understand that. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of billionaires in this country and around the world who couldn't make it through college, right? Actually, they were dropouts. And so I think that people also take solace in that fact, or people also lean on that narrative and say, I don't need education, I can make it. And so they get comfortable. What would be your token advice to young ladies or young guys in your age who may be watching or listening to you after this episode?
It's funny that you asked this question. I guess my immediate response, I'm not a big risk taker, to be honest. So I like to stick to more traditional paths in a lot of things, especially when it comes to careers. So those who don't, I guess, feel the need to pursue education to obtain their goals, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to making sure that whatever you aspire to be, you know what it takes to get there, and that you have people who can mentor you and can support you in that. I also err on the side of caution in the sense that, like, it doesn't hurt to get a college education. It doesn't hurt to pursue education. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use your educational background if your desires or pursuits, kind of take you in a different direction. But I guess for me, I would say, do your research. Everyone should know, what it takes to fulfill that role that you see yourself fulfilling in 10, 15 years. Make sure you have a plan. And if your plan doesn't require the education, then, make sure you have something in mind. I mean, make sure you are making a difference in some way and making sure that you're not going to be dependent on someone forever, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you want to, kind of stake out your own lane, there are definitely multiple avenues to do so. But always make sure you have a plan A, plan B, and seek that out to the best.
Thank you so much. No, really appreciate your response, Kaya.
Yes.
I got it right.
Yeah.
I will come to you and find out why you chose the path that neuroscience, and not maybe what do you call it, ER, or any other field in the medical, any other particular field in the medical sector. But let's go to Attorney Lester Barclay. KAYIN, can you tilt your your computer a little bit so that we can see more? There you go. Just like absolute. That's wonderful. I want to take the opportunity to welcome Attorney Lester Barclay and KAYIN Barclay on the show, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. It's an honor. Now, before we go to Attorney Barclay, a little background of who Attorney Lester Barclay is. Due to time, we will not be able to get all his bio out, but in the course of the conversation, we hope to get some of the details that we may not be able to read out. He's a native of Chicago. Attorney Lester Barclay obtained his Bachelor's of Arts degree with honors from Oberlin College in 1981. He then received his Juris Doctor degree from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. In 1986, Mr. Barclay was named a Henry Luce Scholar, having been identified by the Luce Foundation as one of the future leaders of America. As a result of being awarded a Luce scholarship, Attorney Barclay was assigned to the Ministry of Industry of the Royal Thai government in Bangkok, Thailand, where he worked to establish trade relations between companies in the United States and Southeast Asia. As an attorney, Mr. Barclay has distinguished himself as a powerful advocate and champion for many families and businesses in Chicago and throughout the nation. As I said, his experiences, background is vast and wide and deep. You may want to look him up on his website and join the conversation. We might be dropping some of them. Sir, once again, you're welcome to the show. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having us.
Thank you for your time. And before we go to KAYIN to get an intro from him, Attorney Barclay, you are the founder of the Barclay Law Group. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you can tell us a little bit about before you got into governance and working with the U.S. and the Thai government, how was growing up in Chicago like for you as a young man?
Well, I'm the youngest of 11 children, first generation in the U.S., and grew up in a very close-knit religious family. That education was taught, and it was something that we respected greatly because it was an opportunity to get to the front of the line instead of the back of the line. And so, growing up, it was tough. We didn't have all the resources that we had hoped. But we had, ambition. We're willing to work hard, and we're willing to study hard to get to the next level.
Brilliant. Attorney, you also sit on a couple of boards in the city of Chicago. And some of them I would like to read out. This is super, super impressive, and I did like our audience to know this about you. You are on the Oberlin College Board of Trustees. You're also on advisory. You're on the advisory board of you are an advisory board member for the City of Chicago Department of Cultural Affairs. You are the president of Chicago Office of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, Chicago Legal Aid Bureau, and a delegate to Jamaica Diaspora Conference in 2006 and 2008. You're also a board member of the Illinois African American Family Commission and the board chairman, Chicago Transit Authority Citizens Advisory Board. These are great achievements, sir. And we want to ask what prompts you or what motivates you to keep achieving these great feats. Reason why I ask is that the stigma when it comes to our community, the African American or sometimes the minority community, or I'll say the Black community, is that we sometimes settle. And so if you can please, expand on what has been your motivation and what has been a driver for you in achieving all these feats, and maybe some advice you have for some young folks out there.
Well, I think that you have to set the bar very high. Those who have gone before us, we stand tall on their shoulders, and we owe a duty and responsibility to those who paved the way. One who receives must be equally committed to give. And so that is not only it's time, it's service, it's a part of you. And that is what has driven me to give back to, whether it's non-for-profits or organizations or government organizations, to give back to that next generation and show them that you can be successful, but you can also be compassionate. You can be generous with your time and with your resources.
Brilliant, sir. Your daughter, Kaya, may just mention how you provided a safe haven, an environment where she can aspire to be great. She almost didn't have any option than to stay in school because again, you provided that atmosphere for her. Would you say that was the same situation for you growing up as a young man in the city of Chicago or in America?
It was, education was clearly, it wasn't an option. It was something that we were taught that we had to achieve, and we had to take education seriously. I mean, it was not something that we treated lightly because it could mean the difference between success and possible failure. And so we studied hard and we put all that we had into trying to achieve so that we could make not only ourselves proud of our efforts, but those who had made the sacrifices for us to come to America, to basically enjoy some of the benefits that we would not have otherwise been able to enjoy. We wanted to basically do them proud as well, to let them know that we appreciated all the efforts and sacrifices that they made on our behalf to take advantage of every opportunity that was available educationally.
Thank you so much once again, Mr. Barclay. And I'll come to you later in the conversation. I just want to go to KAYIN, who has been waiting patiently. He actually is the first one to be on the show, but for some reason, he's the last one to be introduced. Sometimes, brother, the world is not fair. But I know you've been patient with me, and I truly appreciate it. KAYIN, I want to have our audience to understand who you are, get to know a little bit about your background. So please bear with me. KAYIN, Mr. KAYIN, right? Is it KAYIN?
Yes, KAYIN.
Thank you so much. Mr. KAYIN Barclay is a senior vice president at Insight Equity and is also responsible for all aspects of deal sourcing, evaluation, and execution, as well as partnering with portfolio company management to execute strategic and operational initiatives. Before joining Insight Equity, KAYIN was an associate at RLJ Equity Partners, a private equity firm. While at RLJ Equity Partners, KAYIN underwrote new investment portfolio opportunities and managed portfolio investments with a focus on business services and manufacturing sectors. Prior to that, KAYIN was an investment banking analyst at Barclays Capital, where he worked in the financial institutions group. He has MBA from Harvard and a graduate with magna cum laude from Morehouse College with a BA in economics. Sir, I salute your accolades and your achievement as a young man. Brilliant job. Welcome again. Now, you have, I don't know if you want to share your age, but you look very young, a young Black man who has achieved a lot for yourself. Can you tell us was it any difficult for you? Did you also feel that, would you share the same story as your sister shared, being that you had an environment that motivated you or that made it easy for you to focus on education, which is why you've achieved what you've achieved? Would you agree to that, or your story is a little different?
Yeah, so I'm 32 years old, just for transparency, and I would completely agree with my sister that education was prioritized in our family, and not just from one parent, definitely both parents, and not just our parents, but our broader community, our cousins, aunts and uncles, grandparents were also very supportive of educational pursuits.
Now, again, thank you so much, KAYIN. As a young Black man, did you also experience these type of stigma that people would usually ascribe to the Black community, African American men, or just minority folks? Did you experience this firsthand?
Yeah, it's something that I experienced growing up in Chicago. I think expectations were definitely lower than there were definitely incidents where I was able to outperform just through sheer hard work and determination, and still experience it today. No matter how many degrees I have, I think we live in a very biased world, and I think is there's just an expectation, there's a stereotype that exists that is not rooted in truth. There are plenty of people that are extremely well educated and capable of many of the opportunities that are available.
Thank you again for sharing, sir. You had your MBA from Harvard University.
Yes.
Okay. Same school that Obama was he? I think Obama was a student there, right?
He was at the law school, and I was at the business school.
Now it's known to be a school where great men and women are made. So we should all assume that you're already made. You're a great man. Okay. So just by going through that institution. No, but on a more serious note, it's not a prestigious school. Uh, would you say that what did you get there by scholarship? Did your father advise you to go to Harvard? Or as a young man, you were just determined that I will shoot for the best?
Yeah. So was always, even from a young age, was always looking to pursue the best opportunities that existed. Was very familiar with the Harvard name and the rest of the Ivy League. Was fortunate to get in just through sheer hard work. There was no scholarship. I wish there was. Wouldn't be sitting on the student loans that I have today. But they looked at my profile and thought that I had a compelling case and a lot of experience that I could contribute to the classroom. So I was very fortunate for that experience. And I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Barclay, you have to pay for all of this.
Yes, I did. I wish Barclay were you.
Well, yeah, we have our own internal issues about the cost of education and who pays for what. But KAYIN, I have to commend him. He went to Morehouse College on a scholarship, and he undertook the responsibility of graduate school at Harvard. And we're very proud that he has been exemplary in terms of his leadership and his level of responsibility too.
Thank you for sharing. KAYIN, having gone through the institution, Morehouse, again, another prestigious Black school or American college, and then to Harvard, having been through the system, did you perceive at one point that perhaps, even though America has great educational system, the cost of that inhibits or prevents a lot of minority folks or people who fall under the middle class or lower class? You think that the cost of attaining education is so high that it prevents talents and bright people to get into those higher institutions?
Yes, the short answer is yes. The cost of school is just way more expensive than it should be. Way more expensive when compared to whether we're looking at the minimum wage or average per capita income. Is pretty unaffordable. Some schools easily at the undergrad level cost over $100,000, and definitely at the grad school level. Some of the most important degrees, whether we're talking about business school, law school, PhD programs, or medical school, they all saddle students with hundreds of thousands of debts that can take 5 to 10 years or even a lifetime to pay off. And that's why it's such a important issue for millennials these days. But I've encountered a number of my peers that would have gone to really strong programs, but did the math, and unfortunately, the degrees didn't make sense for them, and they chose still great opportunities and great programs, but it wasn't the ones that they had earned their way into. And one thing I would add for your listeners is that Harvard Business School just recently announced that they will be providing need-based aid, so full rides for I think about 10% of each class. So that will be a unique opportunity for people to pursue. But we love to apply for scholarships in our family. We don't win them all, but we are fortunate, and I was fortunate to have my undergrad paid for by Morehouse College, and will always be indebted to them.
Kaya, do you feel the same way?
Yes, it's interesting. That you say this. I am fortunate enough to be in a position where my parents for undergrad were able to cover the cost of college, and I thank my parents immensely from the bottom of my heart, because that is not a story that many people, especially many minorities, can share. But I think my parents, they played their cards right. They had their ducks in a row. They foresaw that their kids would be going off to college, and they did what they needed to do from the time that we were born to make important and strategic investments in order to support our college education. And that was just a promise that they kind of made to us, that whatever school that we had done the work to get into, that they would do their best to support us financially. And so I walked away from college debt free, which took a huge load off of my shoulders compared to a lot of my friends. When it came to graduate school, I think in part it kind of weighed into my decision about which program I would go into, but the PhD in sciences is typically paid for, so the tuition is waived, and they actually pay you a stipend to work in a research lab as you pursue your PhD. So I'm also still not paying and don't foresee paying for any education in the future. But overall, I see a lot of my friends who are really struggling to calculate how to pay off these loans these days.
Thank you for sharing again, Mr. Barclay. You have done a lot of work. I think we have KAYIN. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. So we had is that another Barclay coming in? S Barclay?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, it looks like we have another Barclay in the back in the back studio. So once you're ready, I don't know what the S stands for. I see S. So once you're ready, let me know, and I'll bring you in to share the story. If Mr. Barclay she's supposed to be part of the program, is that correct?
Well, you might see my wife there.
Oh, okay.
She can certainly join in. I mean, she should get every bit of credit for this.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll bring it in at some point. But I wanted you to comment on the points that your children were just making regarding the tuition fees and how it can prevent, a lot of potential talents out there, especially in struggling communities.
Can I just say?
Yes, go ahead.
I just on this comment of like how, the cost really just deters people from pursuing education. Mm-hmm. It's even before you even are admitted into the school or you receive the, congratulations, you've been accepted. I mean, application fees are insane. Our little sister is applying to graduate school right now, and the cost of the applications alone to send out to the schools just to even be considered is really a huge deterrent these days. So that's a large issue in my head is people are not even don't even have the confidence to apply for programs that they definitely should be applying to, simply because it costs $1,000 to apply to a school and you don't even know if they're going to say yes.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's a very powerful point you made, Kaya. Looks like you might not just end up being a neuroscientist, but a student advocate, or maybe some type of cause that would champion, maybe people's advocacy, something like that. Because I see a lot of advocacy voice, in you. All right. So I hopefully you can allow that too to flow, because you have a powerful voice, right? And you do have the intellect, the depth, the wisdom. So that is just my intuition as I speak with you all. Mr. Barclay, I don't know if you want to add to what your children just shared when it comes to cost of education in this country, even though a lot of internationals come here and want to have a taste of American institution. But you have done a lot of work outside, globally. How do
Yes.
you compare the educational system, the cost involved, and all of that?
Well, clearly, as a first generation student, I was awarded financial assistance that enabled me to attend a great school, Oberlin College in Ohio. However, I recognize that the cost of education is very expensive, but it's also sacrificial because I understand the value of an education. KAYIN, who is a champion master chess player, was able to win a scholarship, an academic scholarship to Morehouse College. That took some of the load off of us. And so when my two daughters came along, because the promise was, we will make the sacrifice to support and send you to whatever school you're able to gain admission to. And that was the promise that we made to them, because we wanted to expose them and let them go as far as their talents would allow. And so we made that promise to all of the children, and he was fortunate to take some of that load off of us. And when his sisters came along, certainly it was sacrificial. I remember one day needing a new car because the car was not performing well, to the car dealer and looking at a new car and thinking, but I've got to pay tuition. And just thought, no, that's not going to work. I might have to put an engine in this car, or have some work done to keep it going for another couple of years, because the priority of the day was to basically make sure that the tuition was paid. So it is sacrificial for most households. Most American African American households, are barely trying to make it, and struggle through whatever economic circumstances they're challenged with. However, we were fortunate and blessed where we were able to maneuver a couple of things to keep them engaged and keep them in school.
Thank you so much for sharing. You have been watching the Progressive Mind show. My name is Alinko. Today we started our new series, which is Their Stories, and we're talking to attorney Lester Barclay, who is the CEO and founder of Barclay, the Barclay Law Group. His daughter, Kaya Barclay, is a PhD student in neuroscience, correct? All right.
Yes.
And then KAYIN Barclay, who is an investment banker. Can I safely say that? Or
I'm a private equity investor.
Okay, private equity investor, private investor. Now that we're at it, what's the difference?
So, if you investment bankers are similar to real estate agents, and then private equity professionals are the people that actually own the house and are trying to flip it.
Okay. And the question that I wanted to ask you was, you were on, is, did you feel, whilst you were at Harvard, and I know you would be categorized as minority on campus, right? Being a Black man. Was there any type of intimidation based off the aura, the environment? Were people in that institution make you feel that you did not belong? Did you have to experience any of these things?
So I think going to a predominantly white institution was definitely an adjustment. The community we come from in Chicago is predominantly African American. You walk outside your door and you see a lot of faces that are smiling and look like you. Boston is kind of the opposite. Fortunately, there are a number of us minorities within the business school programs, but we also have the benefit of having the broader community of the law school, the education school, the medical school, and other graduate school programs that also attract African Americans and other minorities. So, and the last thing I would say is I was very fortunate to be able to find a church community that made me feel very comfortable. But so there was an adjustment to living in the Boston area. But as soon as I started contributing to the classroom environment, I knew that I belonged, and was able to make a lot of friends. And definitely, if things got a little bit stressful, I found solace in my community.
Thank you again for sharing. And I'd like to take a short break. When we come back, we would talk about the Barclays family and their trip to Jamaica and Africa and all of that. But before we take a break and come back to that topic, you have been watching and listening to the Barclay family, Attorney Lester Barclay, KAYIN, and KAYIN. What I'm learning from this, and I hope what a lot of Africans or say Caribbeans would learn from this or take from this, you know, if I may use the word take, is that our struggles seem to be the same. As I listen, in Africa, on the continent of Africa, we don't have to struggle with anybody making us feel intimidated or not accepted because it's all Black people. It's just us. But the challenge there is that we don't have enough opportunities to attain the higher feats in education as much as we would want. Actually, right from kindergarten all the way to university level, you have to pay out of pocket. And so if your father, your parents are not well-to-do or don't have a good job, and a lot of majority of folks in Africa fall under the middle class category. And so you can imagine your parents not having parents of people not having money to be able to take care of their wards, feed their children, let alone pay for school fees. So what you have is a lot of talent not getting the opportunity to develop. But here in America, you have at least the social safety network and the opportunity to go to higher education and achieve anything you want to if you put your mind to it. But then you have to struggle with discrimination, or you have to struggle with social injustices or some social nuances, which the African don't have to deal with. So if you look at both sides, the Black man, people of African descent struggle in different ways. And what we try to share on this platform is that there is no need for us as African diaspora community to have some type of animosity or these differences that have existed among us for years. We don't have to keep doing that, because in actuality, we all struggle, but in different forms. But what's also important is that as indigenous Africans, and even Caribbeans that come to America, what we have to understand is we didn't have to deal, or we don't have to deal with any type of discrimination, as I said. But we have a group of people, or African Americans, who have had to deal with these social injustice or some social conditions that in so many ways prevents them to attain their dreams. And so, but even in spite of that, they're able to grace through it. They're able to motivate themselves. They find motivation somewhere, either intrinsic or from anywhere. They keep achieving. They keep contributing to the development of this country, to the building of America, so that when Africans and Caribbeans come here, we can smoothly grace in the system. We can take advantage of the student loans, the grants, and everything that they keep fighting for. We don't have to deal with social injustices, a lot of times, because they keep fighting and they have fought for it. And so all I'm saying is that we have to appreciate a lot what the African American community have been able to achieve, not for just themselves, but this country, the United States, which we all love as immigrants, which is why we come here, but the entire globe. And it's through this recognition and appreciation that we can begin to respect one another and begin to forge that community, that bigger diaspora community, knowing that we all have one heritage. And I think it's vice versa, so that the African Americans can see that the Africans are not just coming here to take away, but we're also struggling in terms of poverty and lack and bad political leadership. And so we come here to look for what we don't have back home. And so again, the struggle is the same, but in different forms. All we have to do is appreciate each other, that we're on this together, while at the same time acknowledging that we're not here, or we're not supposed to be pointing fingers at each other and looking down on each other. This note, we will take this short break. When we come back, the show will continue. We would give you the opportunity. You can share the feed, okay? If you're watching on Facebook, actually, for those who are, if you just join us, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you go to YouTube and you type the Progressive Mind Show, and Facebook, Twitter as well, you should be able to watch us live. All right. And then whilst you are there, you can share the feed so we can promote, we can all share in these powerful stories that we're listening to today. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about their trip to Africa. Stay tuned. We shall be right back after this break. I'm trying to find the clip. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the show. My name is Alinko. This is the Progressive Mind Show. Our location has changed today, right? We are in New York City, and that is the Brooklyn Bridge right behind me. I wish I were outside right by the bridge so you all can see it live. But no, we're in New York City today with the Progressive Mind Show. Next week we might be in California, and then we'll keep changing location. But we're glad that you stayed with us. Please share the feed if you're watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. And we're going to go straight to the Barclay family to listen to their story as they travel to Jamaica and in Africa. Mr. Barclay, what led to that journey in the first place? First of all, did you do an African ancestry, ancestry.com? What necessitated these trips?
Well, we didn't do an African any type of ancestry.com.
Okay.
When the children were born, my gift to them was that each of them could travel with their father alone anywhere in the world that they chose to at a certain point in time. And that was the gift that I gave each of them at birth. And so at the appropriate age, when they selected where they wanted to go, that's where we went. I think KAYIN selected Russia because he wanted to play chess in the park And so as a young aspiring chess master, that's what we did. We went for a couple of weeks to Moscow, and then over to Leningrad to play chess in the park. And so Kaya, I think we went to Indonesia, and so we experienced that international experience. And then Kara, the youngest child who's not here, elected to go to Panama to see the canal that her great grandfather built. And so, each of them had that experience. Unfortunately, it was one that they had with their father one-on-one. And of course, their mother was very encouraging of that. You get to go, you can have a great time. And so that was my gift to them. But later, I found that they love travel as much as I love travel, and as my parents and others in my family had traveled around the world. And so they basically began to travel. I think KAYIN had indicated that by the time he was 21, he'd probably been in, 15 to 20 countries. And that was something that we pushed and encouraged and still do as well. So when we decided to do the Jamaica trip, it was basically out of having a connection to our ancestors who had gone there by way of the African diaspora through slavery, and wanted them to draw that connection to understanding that it all begins in Africa, but the middle of the chapter is somewhere in the Caribbean and in the island of Jamaica, where all their grandparents were born. And so I wanted them to see that aspect of their lives.
Thank you so much for sharing. KAYIN, what was your experience when you went to Jamaica?
For me, it was definitely a reunion for our family. We all live in different states, and so it's very rare outside of holidays for us to come together. And I think we really accelerated our familial bonds, and had the funny conversations, the tough conversations. We accelerated the growth of our relationship by years, by my estimate. But more importantly, we have heard about Jamaica throughout our life. We regularly eat Jamaican food. I can't cook it very well, but definitely wanted to be able to draw the connection, to visit family members that were there, and establish the bond with the next generation. So was fortunate to be able to accomplish that on the trip.
Thank you so much. Kaya, just want to make sure I'm coming correct. Did you, when your father was, when your father spoke earlier, he talked about how KAYIN had visited 15 to 20 countries by the time he was 21. Is it 15 countries? By the time
at least.
And he didn't say anything about you, so I don't know how many countries you had.
I honestly don't know the number off the top of my head.
Okay.
But each country that I've visited, I have thoroughly enjoyed. And so it is definitely something that I enjoy doing, traveling. Culture is so rich, and if you have the opportunity to go see a new culture, I just highly recommend it. It makes you, think about some things in your own lifestyle. And do you really need to run that much water? Like, I think you can shower with a little less water. So traveling is cool, but I don't have a number off the top of my head. Yeah.
Now, so you are part of the Jamaica crew, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Have you been to Africa yet?
I have not. We were supposed to visit my sister in South Africa when she was living there for her study abroad. And then I think like a week before or 2 weeks before the trip, I had gotten like my shots and everything. The borders closed for COVID. So I haven't made it over to the continent yet, but it's definitely something that's in the books. Yeah.
Awesome. How about you, KAYIN?
I was fortunate to be able to travel to the continent during my business school program. I found community with people that were born in South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire. So was able to visit South Africa, um, Ivory Coast, and Ghana, and have an outstanding invitation to Nigeria. So that trip is coming up. But
Kaya, do you think there's a need for millennials, Generation X, to want to go as millennials and Generation X within the Black community to go to the continent? Do you think there's a need for for your age group to do that?
Yes, I
Okay,
do.
why?
Um, I mean, there's so many reasons. I
Yeah.
think sometimes you get fixated on what's right in front of you. I think it gives you, I would imagine, because again, I haven't been, but I think some of the desires and reasons why I feel like it's important for me to go, and I consider myself part of the millennial young population,
Okay.
is just a connection to your roots, knowing that, you know, like my dad says, we're standing on the shoulders of people that came before us, and the culture in Africa is so rich. I actually don't feel like I was really exposed to African culture until I got to college, and there were a lot of African student associations, and I got to see like the culture play out from a lot of the international students from Africa that come onto campus, and that's when I realized like I'm missing out on a whole world that I didn't even really see, because all I knew was just Black American culture for a long time. I knew, like KAYIN said, you know, some Jamaican things and some things that may be pertinent in the African culture, but to just really immerse myself in that, I think it's important. I think it's important to know who came before you, all the struggles, even the good parts. I think, you know, in America, there's, you know, Black Americans can have their own prejudices and biases against Africans because of what they see on the media. And so I think going back to see, like, actually, no, it's not just poverty. Like you guys told me in elementary school, there's rich culture. People are starting businesses. There's so much talent on the continent. I definitely think it's important for people to see that. I think it's shifting a little bit with social media. You know, that's really aiding and exposing the millennials and Generation X, Y, Z. But yeah, I do think it's important.
KAYIN, why do you think for a long time that has not been a thing in the minds of young people, and even I'll say baby boomers? I mean, going to Africa or checking out the continent was not even a conversation to be had. Why do you think there's been so much gap when it comes to this?
So I would say that definitely a lack of exposure. I see that a lot of that is changing with the advancements of Afro beats, and that becoming very popular within the American music scene. There's also a lot more, like there's festivals that we've seen and had the privilege of attending. So there are events that people attend on an annual basis that are very, very popular amongst people in my peer group trying to visit the continent as well. But I would say people just we didn't grow up being exposed to the greater culture, but we were privileged to meet counterparts from the continent during college and grad school, and they exposed us. For example, my first year roommate at Harvard Business School was Nigerian, and he literally went down all of his favorite music artists from the continent, and that really started my love of African music. So was very fortunate to have him as a roommate. I didn't know what jollof was before grad school. I think we recognize we eat a lot of the same foods even, and enjoy a lot of the same foods, but we just didn't know, hey, that there were Africa or places in Chicago that you could get jollof, but they exist, and now we know to seek them out. And I think my dad actually works next to one of them as well, so we've been able to experience that as a family.
Brilliant. I'm going to ask Kaya and KAYIN this question as a follow-up. KAYIN also, you've been to Jamaica, you've been to the continent, and you were born here. I mean, you're an American. Do you see similarities in our cultures as Black people globally? And if you see, what are those similarities?
Definitely, I think first of all, we're all people of love and celebration. There is so much joy, so much laughter, so much happiness, and I think it's amazing to see coming from America, because no matter how blessed we are, we always find something to complain about. But you go into some of these experiences, and they're just so grateful to have family members and friends around, and to be able to socialize, and that's where they
Okay. Kaya, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, I can tag in. Yeah, I think there are a lot of similarities, like KAYIN was saying, the family, the importance of family. I think is something that really stands out to me. I think music is really, really big, in Africa and the Caribbean. Just celebration. I think just in the African American like family unit, there's always a reason to gather around food and just to be together and be in community. I don't think we are a community that likes to be in isolation. And so if you find a reason to grab a friend or grab a sister, even people who aren't related to you, that's auntie so-and-so. It's like, that is not your biological aunt, but it's like, it doesn't matter. We all, it takes a village to bring, raise up the community. And so this idea of communal living, communal experience, and respect for elders is something that I see across the board within the Black.
Man, you guys have said a lot of brilliant things this evening. But one thing I'm going to take home tonight is one of the things you just said, Kaya, which is respect for elders. This is huge in the African community. Something that I have struggled to see here in the African American community.
Yeah, I can see your take on that. I think over the years, it's definitely become a little bit more less obvious. Right. But I think at the end of the day, even the kids that give their parents a hard time, kind of what mom is willing to take and what she's not. And right. I think at the end of the day, it's still a level of respect that we even joke with some of our white counterparts, like, my mama wouldn't let me get away with that one. Now, I'm not going to act the fool in the grocery store like that. So right. I still think that there's this element of respect that's here strong in the African.
I completely agree. I think the point I was trying to make is that there is the connection of the similarity when it comes to our cultures, right? And so, and these are the things that makes us Africans or Black people. The culture of respecting our elders and taking them seriously is so paramount, because you can flounder it. The older generation would expect you to address them as old people. So if you want to speak to your grandma or an elderly person, you can just address them and say their name. You have to use the adjective old, use those adjectives that connects to their age, and they accept it. You have to do it, and you have to show a lot of humility and respect when you're talking to them, when you're addressing them. We seek wisdom from them. We go to our nanas, we call them nanas, which is the old folks, right? We go to our grannies for advice, because the assumption is that, or the reality is that, they have lived this life a long time, and so they know a thing or two that we, the younger ones, haven't figured out yet. So we seek advice from them. We go to them for wisdom. And when it comes to this country, I don't see that. And I understand it's not intentional. I understand that there were circumstances that has ripped off some of the culture. But what I'm saying is that you made a very powerful point, which is the respect for our elders. Now, I think that if, as a people in the diaspora, if we can enforce that, right, that elderly younger people relationship seeking advice and us helping them when they get older. I think that it helps our society. It breeds prosperity, right, and peace in the Black community, I think. And so, great point. KAYIN just came back, but Attorney Barclay, we have about 15 minutes, actually about 8 minutes to end the show, and we have been talking to the Barclay family, sharing their stories, and also talking about their journey to Jamaica, or the Caribbean, and of course Africa, and how it relates to their stories. And so, if you have been watching the Progressive Minds on Facebook and YouTube, we want to encourage you to share the feed. You can invite friends to follow these stories. This is what we want to do to connect us as Black people, and also to motivate folks who may have dreams of achieving greater feats for themselves, but maybe going through trial times. Attorney Barclay, you have not achieved all of this without going through challenges. You want to share a few of them, and then we'll go to KAYIN to share his challenges through too, if you may, Attorney Barclay.
Yeah, I think that we have all experienced some challenges, including failure, and oftentimes when we fail, we have to learn to regroup, recalibrate, and get back on the horse. I think character is not built by falling off the horse and sitting there, but it's the ability to get back on and ride forward, move forward. So, I have shared with the children that, you will enjoy much success. However, leave some room and some space for failure. And when you do fail, don't sit there. Get back up, try again, and make every effort to learn from that experience and build upon that episode so that you will be stronger and you'll be better prepared. I mean, this is a world that we live in that there's a lot of racism. There are a lot of things that African Americans are entitled to, or should receive, or should gain credit for, and that's not always the case. It has always been a struggle for the African American community, for the African community, for immigrants who are coming from the Caribbean and South America to settle in and sort of establish who they are. But be prepared that everybody is not going to be your friend, and everybody is not going to understand your struggle, but you can rise above that.
Thank you so much for sharing, KAYIN. You as you pursue your higher education. First of all, why did you choose? I knew I wasn't going to miss that question. Why did you choose neuroscience?
The truth is, I grew up, I grew up hating science. I wasn't good at it. I'm more of a writer at heart. And so I kind of knew for a long time I was going to figure out something with English and writing. But somewhere down the line, I think maybe in 7th or 8th grade, a question just popped into my head. And that question really stemmed from seeing a lot of drug addicts around me in our church, who we were, ministering the word to and hoping to see reconciliation with families and a deliverance from their addiction, that I began to ask questions like, why is it so hard to stop, drinking? Or why is it so hard to stop doing the drugs? And, as I began to explore that question, I began to understand that it's an illness. And so that kind of is where my affinity for the brain really stemmed from. And I decided that I was going to be on pursuit to really understand how drugs and alcohol affect the brain. And since then, I've moved a little bit away from addiction sciences, but nevertheless, my love for understanding how the brain works is near and dear to my heart. But that's really where it stemmed from, a desire to just really be able to provide answers for a lot of people in my community who I felt didn't trust science, were ostracized from science, were not part of, the clinical trials. And I wanted to provide some answers for a lot of people who were wondering why it was so hard for themselves and their family members to stop doing drugs and alcohol.
Brilliant. Somebody will listen to your story and will say, "Man, she seemed to have had an easy life, or she seemed to have a very easy, smooth life." Have you had your own personal challenges, and has there been anything that almost derailed you from pursuing your goal? If so, how were you able to overcome it?
I mean, there's always challenges. I was not the straight A student in college, but I worked hard and I sought out resources and I asked for help. I mean, I think part of it is asking for help, and I think also knowing that when God puts something on your heart and tells you this is something that you are to pursue, it will be well. All will be well. And so just don't, I don't freak out when the failure comes. Especially in science, nowadays I have so many failed experiments, and I'm like, I feel like I'm further and further away from answering this question. But I think in my head, I'm like, I serve personally a God that has the answers to all of this. So I'm in it for the long haul. And as he sees fit to reveal things to me, I just want to be an open vessel to be able to receive that and share that with the world, whatever my science pursuits. But I think, like, just educationally, yeah, tons of failures. I didn't get into the schools I wanted to get into, but my dad always says God will open the doors that need to be open and close the doors that need to be closed. And when you have an outlook that God's hand is in my life, and all I want to do is be where he wants me to be, then all it's all going to work out. And I don't fret or freak out. I just
No,
take failures.
That's powerful. The way the God factor in this whole equation is very powerful, what you're sharing. So thank you so much. KAYIN, same question. Somebody will be saying, watching and saying, look, he had it cool. His father and his mother provided, for him. He went to Morehouse and Harvard, and now he's an equity investor, whatever, right? But challenges, personal ones that you think could have, broken you down, and again, how were you able to navigate it if you actually had one?
Yeah, I think the failures throughout my story are abundant. For every win you see on my resume or in my bio, there's at least 20 to 50 losses. Whether it's seeking that first internship, coming out of or in college and getting 50 no's before you get your first yes, or even applying to Harvard Business School 3 times. I didn't get in the first 2, even made it to the interview stage on my first try and didn't get in. So just really fortunate to have the support system around me that tells me to keep going and encourages me during those down moments, and also having a faith system and belief in God that knows, so that I can know that, hey, no matter what happens next, God is guiding my path. And if he can take care of the lilies in the valley, then for sure he'll take care of me, someone made in his own likeness. So I've been very fortunate for the losses, because they've taught me a lot and made me into the person I am today. And as Kaya alluded to earlier, those closed doors are important, because those are not the paths for you. The open doors are the ones that God has ordained.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. And we have time is passed, but it will take a few minutes to wrap up, maybe 3 minutes or so. But I have enjoyed, I have learned a lot, and I hope you are watching us. You have gotten a lot from this as well, and I encourage you to keep sharing the feed so we can all educate ourselves. But Kaya, tell me that one thing, that one experience that you will never forget when you touch foot on when you touched foot on in Jamaica and had a direct connection with the soil, with your people. I know you haven't been to Africa yet, and you would have a whole experience that you've never had in your life. Touch foot. Attorney Barclay, am I right or wrong?
You're right. Absolutely.
Like something you've never experienced, but share with us. that experience?
Honestly, I think for me it was there were so many, but if I could pick, kind of a very
A life-changing moment.
life-changing moment. I mean, there were several. I think it was stepping off of the airplane and at customs. Um, this was my first time it was my first time in a country where everyone looked like me. And so, in America, it's often when I see, in my workplace, when I see people who look like me, they are working in the cafeteria, they are the janitorial or custodial staff. They're not in positions of power. And so when I got to Jamaica and I saw like the person who is in charge of this airport down to the custodial staff at this airport all looks like me, that was a very life-changing moment, because it wasn't like, oh, there's someone who looks like me, but they're just mopping the floors. And not to say that mopping the floors is bad, we need custodial staff, but it was just very empowering to see everyone from the hotel staff down to the person who runs the country, is just, they all look like me. And I just felt like that was the coolest thing. I'd never experienced that before. So that to me was a moment where I was like, I'm home, I'm home, because everyone that looks like me is doing all the jobs, all the positions are filled by someone that looks like me. And that was a strong, meaningful experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. KAYIN.
Pardon, can you rephrase the question?
So I want to rephrase the question. I will just ask you the question directly. No, I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you. No, but same question, right? What was that most life-changing, like I would say that life-changing moment for you when you touch foot on the soil of on the continent of Africa and in Jamaica? You've been to both,
Yeah, I think just so shocked by the level of wealth. I think we come from a fairly impoverished community on the south side of Chicago, and some of the communities that we were fortunate to visit on the continent, whether in South Africa, Ghana, or Ivory Coast, were they were driving nicer cars than my parents drive. Their homes were bigger and more stately than what we have experienced in the States. And I think the media does a good job of shelling its viewpoints, and they're not accurate. There is just so much wealth and so much opportunity on the continent. The other thing that I also enjoyed witnessing was just so much natural entrepreneurship. Nobody's waiting for anybody to hand them anything. People are on the streets selling whatever they need to sell in order to be successful. And I really do think that a lot of the emerging business growth that we're going to see in coming generations will come from the continent. And we see other nations such as China investing in a lot because they realize the potential that exists, and they want to tap into it as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, and I'm going to go to Attorney Barclay to tell us a little bit about your law firm, what you do, and how you help people, because people are listening, they want to use your law firm. But what you said is powerful, KAYIN. In the absence of the African American, the black person, the black Americans in Africa, the Chinese will gladly occupy it. If China and Asia are building, and other foreigners are building fortunes out of the resources of Africa, why not our brothers and sisters here? You have the same level of intelligence, you have the resources, you contributed to build this great country. You can replicate that in Africa. And a lot of times it's because we've had issues not trusting each other. And you've seen it for yourself. And can you imagine brains like yours, Kaya's and others, combining with what you saw on the continent, right? Africa has the most populous youth in the entire world. We have the strength, we have the manpower, the intelligence, and the natural resources. but we lack certain economic development technique and strategies and resources, which you all have in abundance. And so you can see that power coming together. And you can see the explosion that it's going to cause, not just for us, but the entire human race. We're all going to be beneficiaries of it. And so I encourage you, don't stay in America alone and don't invest here alone. Um, there is a lot of opportunities for you back home. And so I know Attorney Barclay has already been doing something in that realms. You don't have to share, sir. We will talk offline some of your potential investments if you haven't yet started. But my encouragement to African Americans is that please, please, please take the opportunity to go to Africa and start looking at where you can put your resources and how you can contribute. Tony Barclay, can you please share with us some of the services you provide with your law firm?
Yes, the Barclay Law Group is located in the Bronzeville area of Chicago, which is about 10 minutes from Chicago's Loop. After a number of years of practicing downtown, we wanted to come back to our community and offer high quality services to our community. We have 5 lawyers total that assist us, and we work in the civil area where we represent businesses and families in Chicago and throughout the nation to assist them in areas of civil litigation, everything from contract, real estate, family law, probate issues. And so we pretty much handle everything outside of bankruptcy and criminal issues. And so we are a small boutique firm that reaches out to the community because we want to be a part of the community, whether it's here in Illinois or throughout the nation.
Thank you so much for sharing. A few comments here before we take leave of this first brilliant episode. I've enjoyed every bit of it. Education is the way to go, sister. Keep it up. This is from DJ Kenny. Wale says, education is the key that opens knowledge and wisdom. Keep up the good work, Alinko. He is the publisher of Africa USA Today magazine, Chicago. His phone number is 312-937-4507. He says, let's talk about, the Yoruba Nigeria Cultural Exchange Festival Gala evening of elegance and at best. Okay, so we will talk about it, my brother. Thank you so much for your contribution. And then DJ Kenya again says, it's like KAYIN is talking about my work life. We have to always strive for important steps towards achieving equality, independence, and prosperity. It is unbelievable that Black workers on average are not being hired, promoted, or paid according to what would signal their level of education and productivity based on their experience or their education. And then we have this Facebook user that says, I am so happy to hear them discuss this. Thank you so much, Facebook user. Some people don't like to give their name, so thank you, whoever you are, for chiming in. Rebecca says, Rebecca is also watching. We have come to the end of the discussion this evening. We want to thank everybody that has contributed to this show, but we'll have our guests close us out. Before they close us out, though, in your closing remarks, let's do this. In your closing remarks, let's start with the lady, and then we'll end with Mr. Barclay. In your closing remarks, Kaya, did you feel, tell us the level of love and affection you felt, if you did feel that when you went to Jamaica, from the people on the ground. Can you help express that in your closing remarks, and anything else you want to help close us with? Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely felt the love. It probably wasn't until I opened my mouth that they thought I was American. But up until then, I was another friend, another family member in the country. And so they extended their love to me. We have family members there, and they, took us around, showed us around. And the people are so nice and so sweet. And so I'm grateful for the experience that I had there. I felt like I could come back and know a little bit more of the language. I was learning the language patois when I was down there, trying to talk to a lot of people that we were, around throughout the trip. But yeah, just a lovely, lovely people, lovely country, and I'm so proud and have even more pride in knowing that I have Jamaican roots for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, uh, Kaya. And then knowing, do you believe the Jamaican root, Caribbean, and all of that is all connected to the African heritage?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. No, thank you. I just wanted to, because you know what, I've heard a lot of people say, I'm from Jamaica, I'm from Barbados, I'm from Guyana, and they don't connect it to the heritage which we all belong to. I've heard a lot of that. So I just wanted to make sure if you are okay. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. KAYIN, please.
Was very fortunate to be able to travel down to Jamaica. And I think the love was really exemplified for me on a visit with one of our cousins, or to one of our cousins. We didn't necessarily know where he lived per se, but we were able to talk to other people in his community, and they pointed us in the right direction, and we were able to find him sitting on his porch. He gave us a lesson, agricultural lesson in coconuts, and literally took the coconuts right off his tree and made us delicious beverages and helped educate us on the differences between ripe and virgin coconuts. So that was a really thrilling experience, something that I always hold near and dear for me. The food was amazing. Everything in Jamaica is cooked with love. So every time you eat, you're experiencing some of the love, and it feels like home. It tastes like home, and the foods that we grew up on, and people care a lot about you when they're preparing your food. So we were very fortunate to have that.
And any last comments for people who are watching you and friends?
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone to trace back their roots. I think it really gives you more purpose for life. We're not from even though we grew up in the Bronzeville neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, that's not the beginning of our story. And the world is so much bigger. And I think we're purposely kept ignorant of our great legacy that we have, and the connections that we have, whether on the continent or in the Caribbean. And I think it is extremely eye-opening, and just really gives you purpose, knowing that our people were forcibly brought to Jamaica, and then from Jamaica we were fortunate to be able to immigrate to the States, and look at what amazing opportunities that our grandparents and great-grandparents, they couldn't even dream of, that we're able to accomplish. So very fortunate to be able to have this experience, but would encourage everyone to trace back their roots.
I think we have another community activist. We just discovered one. No, I saw that in Kaya, and then now it's an honor to hear from you guys, man. You know, I'm inspired, I'm motivated, and these types of knowledge and wisdom just emboldens me and enforces the path that we are on. Mr. Barclay, please give us some closing remarks.
Well, I'm very proud that the children trusted my judgment to instead of a vacation to do a homegoing venture. I wanted to take them back to home. I wanted to take them back home, and it's very interesting because it's something that my father did for me many years ago. Took me where he was born, and took me where he grew up. And showed me the importance and significance of those roots and keeping that going, and to also share some of the bounty that you've been with those who are still family, who were not as fortunate to have the opportunities that he had and that we have and that our children have. One of the things that I have pledged to myself is that while I have strength and God gives me life, my wife and I have said we're going to hit one African country every year for the rest of our lives. That is important to us, so that the children understand that is the beginning of civilization for our people. And then to make that connection to Jamaica, so that they understand that it's not only relatives that are living in Jamaica, but they're in Panama, they're in Costa Rica, they're in Nicaragua, they're all over the world where people have gone to basically make a life. But it all begins and goes back to the African continent. And lastly, what I'll say is that the fulfillment of our forefathers to do what I promised that I would do was take my generation back to their roots and to fulfill that promise to them. And they were not as fortunate. I remember my grandmother, who I was fortunate to know, could not read or write her name, but within a couple of generations to see the transformation based on opportunity and education, where you could see your child attend a prestigious school, or even a school like Harvard University, for to have a grandmother, a great grandmother who could not read or write their names. This is transformative, and education is powerful, and culture is overwhelming.
Thank you so much. Attorney Barclay, before I let you go, I see two powerful frames behind you. You want to share the stories behind those pictures? Quickly, maybe 30 seconds.
Yes. Well, in my office, we have a legal hall of fame, and those two women, one is Jewel LaFontaine, who is the mother of former U.S. Solicitor General, Deputy of the U.S. Solicitor General, prominent woman in Chicago and throughout the nation, who is also the mother of John Rogers, who's the president of Ariel Capital. And the other one is Ida Platt, who's the first African-American lawyer in the state of Illinois. And this other one that you'll see here, I think you'll remember that person.
Yep, yes. Exactly. Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I have been blessed and honored to have this awesome. I think your family is a very powerful one, very, very exemplary, to be honest. And I'm honored to host you guys on my show. Looking forward to tapping more into your wisdom, knowledge base, and how we can together help our community and the entire society. And I believe there's so much power here. So once again, I want to thank you for coming on the show. But we can't go without talking about the one person that makes all of this work, which is the Mrs. Barclay. Guys, I know we don't have time to talk about her, but how significant, how important, has she been in all of this story? Kaya, 10 seconds, literally.
Oh, instrumental. The household, nothing could be done without her. My dad is a nice sidekick. He does. He's the face, but behind every man, every good man is a greater.
Yes.
Greater woman. So my mom is definitely that. Yeah.
Thank you. KAYIN.
Yeah, I would definitely credit her with so much, keeping the family together, keeping us organized. My sisters and I would probably also credit her with just tutoring us in math and sciences, which is her background, and I think it's been very relevant for our careers. So we could not have trusted our father for that.
No.
I'll tell you, Barclay, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, let me tell you, after we're celebrating 38 years of marriage this month.
Wow.
And we were fortunate to meet in college, and with dreams. What do you want to be? I said, I want to be a lawyer. She said she wanted to be a physician, and we were blessed to achieve those dreams and to set a high standard for our children.
Thank you so much, and happy anniversary.
Thank you.
On that note, we would bring the show to an end this evening. My name is Alinko, and we have had a very great conversation, kicking off their stories series here on this platform. We hope that you can tune in next week, Wednesday, for another powerful one. We're going to have Senator Maddie Hunter on the show, so please stay tuned with us. This has been the Progressive Mind Show. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. Have a wonderful evening. God bless you all. Bye-bye.